Hi, and welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller along with Robert Glasscock. I'm digging those new glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Owlish.
sir. Looking dapper there, my friend. All right, we have, speaking of, a dapper listener question. Check this
Hey
out.
guys, I love this podcast. I've gotten so much out of it. I mean, I've studied astrology for over 20 years and the light bulbs are just going off left and right. Thank you so much for this great podcast. My question is, I heard Robert talk about the fourth house being associated with the father. I just can't make that add up in my mind because the fourth house is ruled by Cancer and the moon, and that's women and mother and all that stuff. So I just really would love to know that. How is the father associated with the fourth house? Thank you so much.
Well, this is a great question, and we have a chart here to give a visual to this. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, we are showing this at least on the YouTube channel. Come over and join us. Old Soul, New Soul. Well, it's the Old Soul, New Soul podcast channel on YouTube. We'd love to have you subscribe. But here you can see, if you're on the video, that we are depicting the father in the fourth house. This chart is put in natural zodiacal order. So Aries is on the ascendant point, 0 degrees Aries. And we put some derivative houses in there that Robert's going to talk about. But Robert, I think he has a great question. And you can even see right here in this chart that Cancer is right on the cusp of the fourth house. Obviously, we think of that, the moon, for the time that I just picked a time here when I set this chart up. The moon is in the fourth house. That just doubles the confusion. Why do we talk about father being in fourth and mother in 10?
It's not only a great question, it's probably pertinent to every astrologer since time immemorial. It still is a debate. I don't know that we will resolve it. Now, I'll tell you how I did. I was into this maybe 4 years or so before I got Mark Edmund Jones's book on horary astrology. Now, this is still the best book I have ever read, ever, by anybody, on why the houses mean what they mean. The book is now out of print, which I never thought would happen, but it is. It's Mark Edmund Jones, MARC, Edmund Jones, Horary Astrology. And in this book, he talks about exactly this dilemma. And you're right. I love the listener. I'm so glad you're enjoying these podcasts. Uh, Everybody tends to think Cancer, female sign, the mother, the womb. And it is all those things. Cancer also rules the testes in a man. And notice that both houses, the 10th and the 4th, are feminine signs, female signs, Capricorn, Cancer. Here's what Mark Edmund Jones described. And when I finally read this, for the first time, I got it. Every book that you read, going back to before Aristotle, some books say, oh, the parent of the opposite sex is shown at the 10th house. Other authorities say the 10th house is the father. Other houses and books say the 4th house is always the father. But here's what Mark Edmund Jones had to say about it. If you understand that the 10th house concept has to do with authority, then you get the idea of, for example, your employer, your boss, ruled by the 10th house, the president of the United States, the executive branch of the United States in the United States horoscope, 10th house, and so on. All right, so we've got this mother father construct. Mark Edmund Jones points out this is very stereotypical and even sexist in today's context, but one of the two parents is going to be the parent of final recourse. Now, here's the phrase that we all have heard our mothers say when we misbehave: I'll tell your father when he gets home. And there you have the parent of final recourse. He's got the final say. The father gives his name to the family, not the mother. The father is usually, again, stereotypically, out making a living all day. Mother is home. She sees daddy off to work. She sees the children off to school. She's at home when the children come home from school. And daddy finally comes home at the end of the day after work. So the mother is the parent of immediate recourse. She's there all day. She's the one that establishes the routine day-to-day at-home authority. She's the one, really, that shapes the child's ego in that sense, because that is not only shown by the sun, it's shown at the 10th house. So the mother has a tremendous influence there. But this idea of the parent of final recourse, usually it's the parent who makes the money. Now, back in the day, in fact, we're in a whole different era in history. Prior to really the 20th century, women, unless they were queens, but women in general had no choice. They had to be married to survive. They weren't allowed to work. And so in some cultures, they're still not. So that's all changed. And you're going to get confused too in today's culture, where in much of the world, same sex marriages occur. So you have two women or two men who are raising families. Well, you have to go back to the biological reality. It takes a man and a woman to make a baby. So biologically, the biological parent and the biological heredity from the parents are shown in the 4th and 10th house. Your heredity from the father is shown in the 4th house. Your heredity from the mother is shown from the 10th house. And you can test this out. We'll test it out in a bit. This is a chart that Thomas is showing you right now using derivative houses. Now, again, when I first started out, I could look at my 4th house and I could make it seem, all right, this house rules my mother. Wait a minute. No, it doesn't. It could rule my father. Same with the 10th house. I could see both parents in both houses, which is true for a lot of us. It wasn't until Mark Edmund Jones explained this difference between the parent of final recourse, and then it all became incredibly clear. My father, for example, this is just for me, and we're not going to be looking at my chart, but here's how you test it out with derivative houses. My father at the 4th house, my father was an ophthalmologist. He was an eye surgeon. And I have Aries on that cusp, which rules the head and the eyes. My dad was an eye, ear, nose, and throat man, the head. His work, his occupation is his 6th house from the 4th. So if Thomas goes back to that chart we were just looking at with the father, you start counting from the father to look at his work and occupation, which is his 6th house. In my dad's case, that house was Virgo, the healthcare field, medicine, healthcare, bingo. And in my 9th house, which is my father's 6th house of work and occupation, you have Jupiter and Mercury, both in Virgo. So my dad's work and occupation is a doctor. Second of all, my father's father died when my dad was 10 years old. So he was the man of the family starting at 10. In my chart, my father's father is shown at his 4th house, which is the same as my 7th house, if we're using derivative houses. In my 4th house, which is my father's father, you have Saturn, which can rule death, in the sign of Cancer at 10 degrees 20 minutes. And my dad's father died when my dad was 10 years old. So this is the kind of specificity that you can get if you begin to study these two houses from the standpoint of derivative houses. So if you can remember that, the mother is the parent of immediate recourse. She's the one that disciplines the children during the day. She's the one that runs the home during the day, keeps it clean, keeps it tidy, keeps the yard, all the domestic work that's so important that women never get enough credit for, she does. So she's the day-to-day immediate authority. But the parent of final recourse is the father. I'll tell your father when he gets home. So if you read and study more and more books and then look at your own chart and your client's chart, other people's charts, and begin to use derivative houses, you'll probably come around as I did. I never looked back once I had this understanding of these houses. And then it also pays off in talking about a client's health, for example. Does your mother have such and such? How about your father? Does he have such and such? That only works with derivative houses. And it only works using the mother at the 10th house and the father at the 4th. So all I can say is take these things into account, try them in your own work, and see what works best for you. And thanks again for that question, and good luck resolving it.
All right. Excellent answer. Thank you so much for that, Robert. And thanks to our caller. And we are glad that you're enjoying this. You might enjoy a reading with the goat. And if you would like to do that, check out the description or the show notes, and you can get Robert's new website where you can contact him directly for a reading. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time on the next Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast, video and audio. Thanks for watching.